Mesdames et messieurs,
The greatest festival of our contemporary society, the Olympic Games, is about to begin.
This is gonna be close.
Oh! They're all completely gassed! They've given it everything on the global bucket! Oh, yeah! Go! Oh!
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. But that is an Olympic championship.
Ready?
Hello and welcome to the 400th episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. I am your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, congratulations. How are you?
Congratulations. So I promised you, oh no.
Oh, I have to break out the bubbly. Sorry.
I promised you I was going to wear something, but I really didn't think this through because I have headphones on. So I can't really put.
It's a Beijing headband thing that you got, right?
So it was from the Beijing. I think someone gave this to me at closing for Paralympics. And because I have it on in the pictures from that. And I did, in fact, wear it for that. And I went into my Beijing box and I found it. And I brought it I was all excited. I got myself ready. And then when I sat down, I realized I didn't think this through because I can't really. So maybe I'll attach the little round part to my, because it is two pieces.
Okay.
To my headphones. You seriously brought bubbly. I just brought water.
Bubbly. Oh, well, I have that too, just in case. I always needed an occasion to break out the bubbly. So I have a little rosé prosecco.
Oh, that's my favorite. Very nice. And we are also joined by our favorite cameraman, Sean Callahan. Hello, Sean.
Hello. And Jill, can you not pop champagne corks? Did you see the Wimbledon clip from last week? Someone popped a champagne cork when they were supposed to be silent before play started.
That was funny. Yeah, exactly.
So congratulations on 400, by the way.
Thank you
very much. Thank you for being a part of it. It's been like, when I think of when you were on the show, it seems like yesterday, and then I look at the list, and it was forever ago.
I know. I don't even know what episode number it was, but it was early.
I think it was before 100. And I want to say it might have even been our old name. It had to have been our old name, right?
Old name, yes.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago. So this winter, I did break out maybe some souvenirs that Sean sent to me. And my daughter tried to steal the hat, to which I said, oh, no. Sean sent this to me. This is mine. No touchy.
Sean, you were on show number 32.
Wow.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
Been a very long time.
I can't believe it was that long ago. Like, even just Pyeongchang in general.
It feels like a long time ago, and it's going to be exciting to have a Winter Olympics that is Olympic again with crowds. Because Paris finally had them, so you feel like, the pandemic was really over when Paris hit. But now we're still like, it'll be another 4 years.
Because, it was Beijing before that.
So you'll have way more time of, we haven't lived in a pandemic, and yet we haven't had a Winter Olympics.
A post-pandemic Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because it was Pyeongchang, then, Beijing, which was basically a COVID Olympics. And now we're back, hopefully, to normal.
Right.
Should we do some Milan news since we're talking about Milan? Buongiorno.
Whoa, we are happy today. Throughout the show, you may think we're going to be a little weird because listeners are hopping in and hopping out as they are able to. We have listener Shuklastani Sean is on the line, Sean Callahan, and we also have listener David. Hello, listener David. How are you?
I'm doing good. Glad I'm able to join.
Thank you for being here. How long have you been listening?
A couple of years now. Definitely at least since after you were in after Beijing. So I don't know if it was much before that, but been with you for at least a couple of years now.
Excellent. Have you had a favorite guest? Or do you have favorite things that we talk about?
I'm in the TV industry, so anytime there's anything TV related, usually there. And just to note, I did over my shoulder, I realized I have been to one Olympics, so Salt Lake over one side, and then some stuff from hockey. So I've been to one Winter Olympics. I will have severe FOMO if I don't get to LA in 2028. So I got really excited when I saw the competition schedule today. So already going to start a little planning there.
There you go. And we will talk competition schedule soon. David, I don't know if you've gone back to listen to episode 32, but Sean Callahan, who works for NBC Boston, he was on that episode. He was a cameraman at Pyeongchang.
Very nice. Yeah, I might have to go back to find that one then.
Yeah, we will definitely get to the LA 2028 schedule because we both have looked at it. But we're going to do a little bit of Milan Cortina news while we are hanging out here.
Love it.
Alison, did you see that Team Canada has partnered with jeweler Hilberg and Burke on a pair of sparkly red heart stud earrings? Did you look at these?
I did, but nobody yet has done my stackable bracelets or stackable rings.
I know. So
on the Olympic colors. So
we have to get
some
on
red studs, whatever.
They cost $74 Canadian and $15 from every pair sold. Supports Team Canada. They are currently available for pre-order. We will have a link to that in the show notes. And we are joined by producer Ben. Hello, producer Ben.
Hello, producer Ben.
Hello.
Sports Examiner reported that the Milan budget has been expanded again.
Really?
Surprised? Yes. They added $300 million to the budget. So it used to be 1.7. Now it's 2.
Paris organizers, they are not.
I know. Well, it's hard. It's got to be hard with everything spread out. But we did find out in some of our press stuff that they will not be doing the medal ceremonies outside of the venues. All medal ceremonies will take place in the venues. They will not have those medal plazas so that you could get tickets to that.
Because there was kind of a mixed reaction to that. Because on the one hand, everybody loved the medal plaza and all the medalists together in the evenings. But I think people who were at the venues at the events felt a little cheated with their, Bing Duen Duen ceremonies or just not the real deal.
That's a good question. Do you have opinions of that? Any of you? Sean, David, Ben?
Well, I'm trying to think back to Salt Lake in '02, where they had like a medals plaza, because I was there as well. I remember they had ceremonies there, but I think they were also sometimes like repeat ceremonies, where like they had, like a small thing at the venue, but then they would kind of have a little more of a party thing down at the plaza.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if they did both or if there was only one of each.
Yeah, if memory serves from Salt Lake, I think that they did some sort of just, something in the venue just to have it there. But then they definitely had the Medals Plaza. I remember it was right near downtown. They had concerts there every night. In New York, I was at a Bare Naked Ladies concert last week. And I remember they did a show one night. Obviously, they're very passionately Canadian. So one of them showed up in like the Canadian speed skater outfit for there. But
I remember that.
Yeah, for the Winter Olympics, when it's only, maybe 8 or 9 medals per night, I like when it's in one place. Get everyone together, have an event, have a concert, have something there. So, if they want to do that, they have to do something in the venue to acknowledge the people that are there. But, if they could have something central, which, again, Milan Cortina kind of tough. But, I like that about Salt Lake. So, definitely a tough point there.
Are you all looking forward to Milan Cortina? I just cannot shake I don't know, Milan, are you going to be able to do it?
I mean, they say that about every Olympic venue, though.
That's true.
There's so much. I mean, Salt Lake was even like that. There's so much left to do at the last minute. I mean, they brought in Mitt Romney at the end. They call him the savior of the games.
There was scandal.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Olympics. I also think it doesn't feel like winter.
That's true.
So
that's very true.
There's something to be said about, when fall comes in North America and people start feeling that. I'm like, ooh, winter's coming. Guess what? There's an Olympics now. That might change the vibe for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's my thing as well. It's summertime right now. It's, enjoy this while it lasts. And then when we get to September, October, the weather starts to cool down. Yeah, I'm going to be ready for a Winter Olympics.
I am excited.
We're also a little overwhelmed by the logistics of this one because it is so spread out. Paris, we knew certain venues were going to be far away, but we knew 70 to 80% of the venues were relatively easily reachable. This, you look at the map and there's no way. If I were not doing this job, there is no way I would go to these Olympics because it's just so spread out. I think it's going to be a much better experience sitting on the couch in terms of being able to see all the different events and really enjoy them rather than spending your day on a train or just not seeing a heck of a lot.
Now, I haven't seen any of the plans. You guys have that information. Are the mountains day trippable from Milan, or is it kind of like going to require an overnight if you want to get up into the skiing and some of the sliding venues?
Some of the mountains are doable from Milan. So if you did freestyle skiing, and I think ski mountaineering, those are going to be pretty doable.
And doable if everything works the way it's supposed to. Oh, Mark, can we get you now?
Yes.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, where are you calling in from, Mark?
Toronto.
Oh, excellent.
That's the tower in the background if you can see it in the painting.
Very nice. Toronto is a lovely city. We are talking Milan Cortina. Logistically, to get to Bormio and Livigno, where there is ski mountaineering and freestyle skiing, that's going to be 3.5 to close to 5 hours from Milan that's what they're saying. To get to Cortina from Milan is going to be another 5 hours. To get to biathlon is at least 6.5. And to get to cross country and Nordic combined is going to be about 4.5. And that's like everything working together. And there gets to be a point where if you are on a bus trip and it's 4.5 hours, you got a mandatory 45-minute driver break in there too. So the concept of maybe you'll get to Valentina because it's close. Valtellina, it's close, but we don't know. Harry Bloodstein, another Shuklastani.
Hello,
oh, so good to see you, Harry.
Good.
How are you?
Oh, well, a warm welcome from a cold place.
Well, the last time we had Harry on, if you remember, he was upside down for half the interview. Which was fantastic because we made the joke, of course, because he was on the other side of the world. So we said Harry was upside down because of that.
Mark, what are you looking forward to come Milan Cortina?
Well, I'm going to be watching from home. I mean, obviously, I'm looking forward to the NHLers. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, Canada is so many prospects in all the different sports. Looking forward to that. And so great that he's going to get maybe one last chance to play in the Olympics. I mean, 2010. That's pretty much the greatest moment we've ever had here in the Olympics. And also, just talking about you guys are just talking about the travel. I mean, respect for the people going over there, going between these sites. I had a couple of train trips in France last year, but nothing like that.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. Bless the people who are able to stay in Cortina, because from what I understand, it's fairly small, and the accommodations there are already expensive. So getting a place to stay there is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Olympics or for the Paralympics. And a lot of people were starting to say, oh, you should probably stay in Venice and then take the transportation from Venice to Cortina, which is in a couple of hours, I think. So we're just trying to figure all that out.
Because Venice to Milan is reasonable in terms of time, and then Venice to Cortina is doable. I have a fear, though, that if Jill gets really mad at me one night, she just may push me off the balcony and I'll end up in a canal. So I'm not sure if we want to stay in a city with that much drowning possibilities.
Well, I think that part of the city by the train station is not very canal-y, I think.
Everything is canal-y. That's the point.
At least it's not all cannoli.
You know what? A city of cannoli sounds lovely.
Why don't, since the big news of the day is LA 2028 schedule.
Let's get to it.
LA 2028 schedule. Thoughts, people. David, what do you think?
Well, the way that I'm approaching this, I know that everything is kind of in clusters. So if I'm going to a basketball game, it's the same spot as a swimming venue. So trying to, figure things out in little bits there. So my plan is, okay, go to one venue, one cluster one day, go to one cluster another day. So just put it together that way and try to figure out how to get around. I don't know how the public transportation is going to be there, but I'm the type of person that wants to get to as much as possible. So I'm probably going to overreach a little bit, but get me to a swimming night, get me to a track and field night, and then whatever else is in the area, if I could pile that on top of that, give me a random fencing, a preliminary round just to say I'm going to be there. But Again, just to see everything laid out, it's like, okay, this is starting to come in focus. Granted, it's 3 years away, but it's depending on how long I can stay out there. Hopefully, I have some friends that can put me up, so I don't have to worry about hotels. And I can see a lot of events out there.
Well, lucky for you, Uber has signed a partnership with LA 2028, and they're working on the regular cars, getting bikes and scooters for multimodal transport, and Uber Eats. Not just to the village, but apparently there's going to be select venues where you can order delivery from Uber Eats into the venue. I don't know how that's going to work.
I'll just be happy if we can Uber Eats some dinner at 1 o'clock in the morning when we're eating.
I have no worries about eating late in California because it's America.
True. So the things don't close. In-N-Out Burger. I had my first In-N-Out Burger when we were in LA for the pin show. So I could work with that.
They're going to make some business during the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
I had that in Vegas years ago. So good.
So triathlon is going to be the first medal, taking away shooting's thunder, because usually air rifle is first medal. But triathlon, it surprised me it's on the first couple of days.
Surprised me too that was what they chose to be the first medal.
I mean, if you think about like the California lifestyle, it's a lot of outdoors, swimming, biking, running. Could you make an argument for that?
Absolutely. And the venue, I believe, it would be Venice Beach. So you want that as your opening shot. We're going to be at Venice Beach on day one, though there are, of course, 2 days before day one of competition. And they've put a lot more on those early days. So usually it's been rugby, some basketball, usually some football. Now there's going to be basketball, cricket, football, handball, hockey, rugby sevens, and water polo, all happening prior to the opening ceremonies. So I think they're just trying to make things happen in the different, you were talking about the clusters, in the different clusters so that people will start arriving those couple days before the opening ceremonies. So today, the day we're recording, is 3 years to go.
Pretty crazy. And unlike Paris, competition on opening ceremonies day. No, but it's going to be in Oklahoma, so it's not like they were going to be able to come to the opening ceremonies anyway because they're scheduled for competition the next day as well. That's canoe slalom. And we've got the whole swimming and athletics switched around. Mark, do you have thoughts about that?
That's interesting. I saw just how late the last swimming, that'll be the last medalist of the game. So at least that's going to be a highlight. They said probably another forum was talking about it that I was seeing on, talking about the medley relays would be the last events of the Olympics. So that's a good way to, I guess, end on and go right. Basically the closing ceremony is right after that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that if you're ending, you're going to get there because swimming is going to end at 4:30 in the afternoon, and the ceremonies will start at.
It's early.
I think it's
the
6
ceremony
o'clock.
starts at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if you're going to win a medal, then you have to sit and go through doping control. You have a ceremony, medal ceremony. You're going through doping control. You're not going to get from SoFi to the Coliseum in time unless the Olympic lanes are open and can get you there. But I highly doubt that you're going to make it. It's kind of sad in a way. But maybe they don't want to go either. Not everybody goes to the closing ceremony.
Like us at Paralympics.
Right.
I mean, you'd have to think that they try to have some sort of special shuttle for any of the athletes that are competing to get to the closing, that the ones that wanted to, at least.
You would think. So hopefully that's been taken into account. Ian, hello. Welcome. Listener Ian.
Hello. It's good to be here.
Where are you calling from?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio, so not far
from you're down the road. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah. And how long have you been listening to the show? 7 years, I guess.
So you're an early adopter.
Yeah, I went searching a few months after 2018, and it was like, well, I need some more Olympic content, and I found this, and I never left.
Well, thank you for sticking with us through some rather hard years. The early years were a little rough. I hope we have improved since then, but thank you so much.
It's been great. Don't worry. It's always a pleasure to listen.
But if anyone
do you
has
have a favorite episode?
Actually I do. It's probably your interview with Madeline Manning Mims. That's probably my favorite. At least that's the one I remember listening to because I remember where I was when I was listening to the end of her story. It was joyfully heartbreaking.
Well, talking to her was amazing. But what I loved about when I was listening back to the episodes was the joy that she brought in speaking with us came through, which I was so grateful for. Her energy was incredibly generous and warm and kind of like that Mr. Rogers thing where you can't believe it's real, but it is. And she just is that amazing and strong and talented and hardworking. And what a joy. And what a joy to have gotten to speak to her at all. You know, that's honestly, and I've said this to Jill more than once, that's been the gift of the show for me as kind of on this side of it was the people I've gotten to talk to. I mean, and then all of you and that whole community thing and just never at this point in my life did I think I would be starting a different career and that it would get me lost on a mountain in Beijing. But
that's a great episode too. Don't sell yourself.
You know, I'm working on a Milan promo, a trailer. So I've been listening back to some of the Beijing episodes, and I listened back to it, and honestly, I made myself laugh, which is embarrassing and ridiculous, but I truly did.
I've never been lost in a mountain on Beijing, but I think I remember in your Paris stories that we shared an experience while we were there. I seem to recall that you were treated by medical staff. Where were you treated by them at?
In the gymnastics venue in Bercy.
I did mine at Roland Garros because I tried very hard to roll my ankle walking from the Parc des Princes to Roland Garros while I was walking across an overpass and needed them to get me an ice pack.
And were yours as lovely as mine?
They were absolutely fantastic.
They were so happy to have something to do, I think. But was that your first time at Roland Garros?
That was day 2. I'd been there 2 consecutive days, but yeah, that was my first time in general, yeah.
Was that the coolest thing ever?
Oh my gosh. I on the first day that I went up to see Jill. I was after Nadal and Alcaraz, and that was amazing.
That was amazing.
Had an
oh my
absolute
gosh.
blast.
That was one of those like pinch me moments. That was one of the things I really wanted to see was being able to see Rafa in person. And that was just incredible. And it was incredible to be able to say hello to you. And then it was not incredible that the media seating completely cleared out for Naomi Osaka. And I felt so, and I understood what they say about tennis press at that point and how women on the tour just aren't always respected as much as men. That really showed in like, but she is an amazing tennis player. Why don't you want to see her?
Yeah, it was really, really empty. It was embarrassing.
Harry.
Yes, I guess I'm a little bit of the odd person out in this discussion because you're all really sports enthusiasts, whereas my interest in the Olympics is more the politics. I'm really wondering if I'm in the right place.
You are absolutely in the right place. And in fact, Harry, we have had you on twice for 2 different, I'm saying this, 2 different books. And then we also had you on your lightning round episode. So you are a three-peater of a guest. So this is actually your 4th appearance on the show.
We last had you on your lightning round was episode 113, but we talked about Cold War games, which was Melbourne 1956. That was episode 105. And then episode 208 was the Mexico City book.
Okay. But have you discussed the politics around LA?
We have on the show. We haven't today.
Okay. Well, it's good that you
but it gets interesting
because it's going to be more than a little bit interesting.
Well, what are your thoughts?
I think at the risk of going back in history, in 1936, it was used to promote a rather unpleasant regime in Berlin. And I can see Trump using this for self-aggrandizement of himself in that regard. So I think it'll be set up as a bit of a spectacular around him.
I'm curious to see if that will happen. There's so much that can happen and change in that time, but there are levers that he could pull to make it more about him. So I'm just very curious. Like every day is different, and it's one of those like, oh, stuff changes so fast here in the U.S. that you get to a point where you're like, well, this may happen, and in a week he may change his mind. Tomorrow he may change his mind. So
yeah, he doesn't stand
I know he likes the story to be.
He doesn't stand by precedents or norms. So what's going to happen when Iran wants to come? Will they get entry?
That's a good question. We're already having those questions with the World Cup for next year.
There you go. What's the timing with the next election?
The next election happens a couple months after the Olympics.
So another good reason.
Oh, the next president, yeah.
Another good reason why it might be politicized, to use it more or less as an election plank. I mean, I guess, again, I look at it from a historian's point of view, and the politics has always been behind the Olympics, whereas it's supposed to be an internationalist movement. The host country has always extracted certain things out of it, particularly of late. Tokyo and Munich Olympics were more or less to.
So you mentioned Tokyo, and we have Roy Tomazawa saying hello. Hello, author Roy.
Hi, Alison. Hi, Jill. It's great to be. Congratulations on your 400th.
Thank you. Thank you for being a big part of it. You were earlier days.
Oh, gosh.
Roy was on. We talked about your book, Roy, with 1 year to go before Tokyo 2020 in 2019. So you were on episode 95. I think Sean still has most of us beat. Rich Perlman hopped on the line, and he is an early person as well.
That's when you were called something else.
Yeah, we can't say that. we can't discuss that.
Is there an IOC monitoring this event?
We never know. And we don't want to get in trouble with them because they give us our credentials.
I'm surprised.
Honestly.
Well, it's just a testament to how big you got, because my blog is still called The Olympians. I mean, technically, I guess they could strike that one down too.
But you are not making money off of the blog with the word Olympian in it.
Right.
And that was the problem with us. So we had merchandise, and that was using their trademark.
Yeah,
you
monetized. Yeah, you were stealing money from the IOC.
I know. Well, not really, because we didn't sell much merch. So,
but the USOPC has been very generous to us in terms of credentialing and media days. So we want them to stay to liking us.
Well, that's
Rich,
what I was
you
so
know
jealous.
this drill, right?
You guys got credentials. Was it for Beijing, right? Beijing, and then
for Beijing was the first one.
Yeah, I applied too late for Tokyo. It didn't matter.
No. I know you could have gotten them for Tokyo, and they would have said, "Sorry, no deal for you."
Right. Rich Perlman, I believe, was on show number 53. So you were also a storied part of our past.
Yeah, I didn't have any more hair then either.
Oh, are you looking forward to Milan, Rich? Are you going to Milan?
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, they seem to be getting on. I think I'm one of the 20 or 30 people who actually monitor the website of Simico, which is the group that is the government agency that is building the facilities. And they're showing you pictures of things that keep getting completed. So it looks like the facilities part of this is going to be okay. And the Winter Games, as you know, is a tiny, tiny fraction of what the Olympic Games is. And virtually all, not all, but virtually all of the events that are going to be held in Milan and Cortina are going to be run by organizations that already do them as World Cups.
So is it going to be much different than a World Cup experience with just Olympic rings on the front?
Well, having worked on 4 Olympic Games and almost 20 other championship events, either multi-sport or world championships or regional championships, the Olympic Games is a totally different animal. The size, the complexity, the number of people who come, the amount of broadcasting infrastructure, number of news media is much different than any kind of World Cup. A World Championship in a winter sport, it can get pretty close. The Alpine World Championships, as an example, can be pretty close. But it's just a lot more complicated. And the one thing that is the same, and when I do go to these media summits that the USOPC would do, and if they would move the thing to Denver, I would go. But I have a little bit of a problem having lost family in the family I never met in the early 1940s. I take these things seriously, as do my friends, some Jewish, some not Jewish. But the big difference is that the infrastructure is much greater in the Olympic Games, and that makes it different. The one thing that's the same is the athletes. The same athletes who are on the World Cup are in the Olympic Games. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. And so when I do go to the media summit, when I went to the one in advance of Paris, one of the questions I repeatedly asked was, how do you see this competition since it's the same athletes you see in the World Championships? And I thought the answers were very interesting, but the answers absolutely crystallized the question or the problem in some people's minds of, well, I'm an athlete, I really work hard, and I'm a rower, and I earn nothing. So I should be getting $1 million because I got an Olympic bronze medal. To which the response is, well, if you're a rower and you're a championship rower, why isn't rowing paying you? Why is it incumbent on the International Olympic Committee, which did not develop your sport, it just puts it on, which, by the way, is put on by the Federation. The IOC could put the event on itself. I've put on myself track meets, basketball events, swimming events, gymnastics events. I don't need FIG. I don't need World Aquatics. I don't need World Athletics. I need money, but all I have to do is agree to follow their rules. I get a sanction. In the U.S., by the way, in track and field, as long as I promise to obey the rules, I get a sanction automatically. I cannot be refused a sanction to put on the event. So I think the Winter Games is great fun, and what makes it interesting is that it's this kind of carnival of sport that goes on. It's everything all at once, and you get to see it all at once, and then it goes away. And there was a report last week in Il Fatto Quotidiano, the Daily Fact in Italy, that the budget now, the government threw another 250 million euro at them. So the Winter Games are going to cost $2 billion there.
Yep, we were talking about that earlier.
That's a lot of spaghetti. So I think Los Angeles in 28, I think, has gone the wrong direction, but they feel they can raise the money to do it. It appears they're on their way to being able to raise enough money to do it. But I think there is this question of gigantism again, and Coventry is going to have to deal with this, that the games are still incredibly expensive. And now there's 7.1 billion Australian dollars being thrown into construction. And that's a lot of construction. I ran a note last week that the Labor Department in in Queensland said that they'll be short 50,000 construction workers next year. Now, Australia does not, I mean, you can talk about immigration in the U.S. all you want. Australia lets in nobody. And that's by design. They're very, very, very careful because they're concerned. They have a relatively homogeneous population, and they're very concerned about who they let in and how they let in, because if you look at the map, you have the population on both ends and there's nobody in the middle, right? It's the backcountry. And they're going to have to find a way to get these workers. So can you imagine the flip side of a FIFA World Cup? Instead of in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, now you have migrant workers going to Australia. This could be fascinating.
It will be interesting, and Brisbane is something to think about with as much construction as they have proposed that they don't necessarily need, according to the IOC. But that makes me wonder, Roy, what has been the response post-Tokyo with all of the building that Tokyo did?
Gosh, I've been out of the loop because after 7 years of writing about the Olympics, I sort of switched gears to write about something else. But the immediate reaction, of course, was post-COVID, poor economy, poor take-up. A lot of the, it's the same story that's happened about a lot of the other Olympics of, white elephants. I don't think that's been any different. The economy has been slow to pick up in general. Japan's going through a slow maturing process. There's no real technological energy that it used to, or financial energy that it used to have. But it's still a fantastic place. It's betting on tourism industry, but a lot of those places are still probably underutilized, probably expensive to maintain. Having said that, I live around the corner from Komazawa Olympic Park, where they held the wrestling and volleyball and soccer, field hockey. Those facilities are still being used since '64. I mean, it's a lot of the places from '64 are still being used. So I don't know if that's the case in Nagano. I don't think that's the case in Sapporo. But 1 out of 4 ain't bad.
Speaking of Brisbane, should we do our Brisbane news?
Yeah. Brisbane news, as Rich Perlman alluded to a little bit earlier, the Queensland and federal governments have reached a funding agreement for the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games with a total of $7.1 billion earmarked for development. The Commonwealth government will contribute $3.453 billion, and the state government's going to pick up the remainder, and minor venues are going to be funded through a 50-50 split between the governments. And as someone who, I love sports, but I also live in a city that is having a huge fight about one American football stadium, I cannot imagine getting socked with a bill for this.
Yeah, and especially when Brisbane first did its proposal, it was, we're going to be the greenest, we're going to be reusing everything, we're not going to build anything, we're going to be not only carbon neutral, we're going to be carbon positive. And then they came out with this insane building plan that was so expensive, so complex, and everyone just forgot about the green plans.
Well, wait. Hold on, Alison. That's not exactly fair. This is what I love about this podcast, because completely fearless forecasting from Alison especially. Change of government.
Yeah.
Elections have consequences, right? This one has $7.1 billion in consequences because the previous government said, hell no, we're not going to do that.
Unfortunately, Harry left because I don't know when their next election is. If we don't like something, we have about 2 years to live with it until we can make a change enough to force some kind of action or inaction. But how soon are we talking? Or is Australia a place where they can get rid of their government at will and call elections? Are they?
No, well, the parliamentary system, so the answer is yes. But they're on 4-year cycle in Queensland. So that money, they're going to get a shovel in the ground in the beginning of next year. And you're talking about a state government. The results were not particularly close. So it's not going to be that easy. They would have to call for elections. In parliamentary system, you'd have to have a call for elections, and they're not going to get a call, any more than 3 years down the line. So that money is going to be spent, and those shovels are going to be in the ground starting early next year, if they can find the 50,000 workers.
Right, and that means some developers are going to make a tidy profit.
Well, most of these are actually not. There's one private facility that's going to get built outside of the 7.1 billion. That's the arena that they want to do. And so that's going to be a completely different program. The rest of these are going to be facilities that are going to be owned and operated by the government, either Queensland or the national government, including this stadium. The question that's out there, and I'm a lawyer by training, I don't know anything about Australian law, is they have an environmental suit against plopping that 63,000 seat stadium in the middle of Victoria Park by Greens Group that says we don't want you to take our park away. And I don't know how that's going to turn out. I mean, government is not worried about it. They're continuing on. But with the permitting and so on, they're starting to grade. But that's a potential complication that's out there. But government's elections have consequences. And that's what happened in Queensland. If the previous government had stayed, Miles' government had stayed, they would have had something totally different, right? The organizing committee is thrilled. Liveris, look, you ask Liveris about it, and he pops up like a Kool-Aid pitcher. There's no difference between the Kool-Aid man and Liveris when you ask about the new stadium. They look identical.
Yeah, the new plan was very, very different than the original plans, and it makes sense that the original plan was created to appease one party versus another versus one governor versus another. Okay, let's try Patrick from Chicagoland. Let's see how we're doing.
I'm using my phone, but it's a blessing and pleasure to be on the, what is it, episode 400, right? Episode 400.
Episode 400.
Yeah.
I know. And you've been with us since the beginning, almost?
Almost. Am I considered OG?
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause
I would say so.
You were there during Pyeongchang.
Yes, yes. So I don't think the first episode, and I'm almost curious to hear what that first episode's like. I don't think I've gone to
No,
it.
you don't want to.
Don't listen to it. It's not good.
For those of you who haven't gone back, and that's fine, don't. When we first conceived the show, it was going to be a tight 30 minutes, and it was going to have 2 stories, and we'd be a little bit more NPR-ish style. We'd have a long feature, and then we'd have a trivia question for each other, and maybe some news, but it was going to be tight. And it was going to be short. And we did 2 of those shows, and we found out how long it takes to write all of that kind of content and produce it. And then we also went to Lake Placid for an Olympian show and got the idea to contact the Olympic Training Center and see if we could get a tour. And they said, "We don't know who you are. You are not coming in here." And then they said, well, maybe, you could try some of the federations that are here and see if they'll let you talk to anybody. And USA Bobsled and Skeleton, thankfully, said, hi, yeah, we'd love to have our athletes talk with you. And they set us up with Josh Williamson, and we met him in their offices, which happened to be in the Olympic Training Center. So we still got to go a little bit to the training center. Then we talked to Josh, and we talked with Nick Cunningham and Lauren Gibbs, and that we realized we really enjoyed doing interviews more and figuring out how sports worked, and that kind of set us on the trajectory that we have today. So thank goodness that only took like 3 episodes.
And did you guys have ever imagined that it would be so? I mean, yes, there's a lot of news information, but there's a ton of laughs, and it's entertaining. That's what I like about it too. It's entertaining.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we had no clue what we were doing, especially at the beginning. So we just worked in what worked. It was a lot of trial and error. And honestly, half the time, my goal for every recording session is to make Jill laugh so she can't talk anymore. Not because I don't want to talk to her, because that makes me happy. So that was a very early goal. And once I realized I could do that consistently, I was like a crack addict. So then it became, what will I do this time to be as ridiculous as possible? And the best compliment I got was actually during Beijing. Was my best friend said to me, it was like I was the same at home and on the show. And I would say the same of Jill. Like when she's off mic and on mic, she's absolutely the same. So that you find us entertaining, I'm going to take as a personal compliment.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Meredith, we will get to you in a moment. I have my little wall of mascots behind me, and I have something here that Alison has no idea what this is. But you may wonder, why is there an elf on the shelf as part of my mascot collection? So this is an elf on the shelf. And very early on, I want to say it was the first year. Do you remember what we said? You probably don't.
No.
We were joking about Elf on the Shelf and T-Bach, and we said that there would be T-Bach on the lock and instead of Elf on the Shelf. So I thought it was just enough time for me to run out to the store and find like the last Elf on the Shelf, and then I never doctored the box to send it to you. And then we just kept calling it T-Bach at home, and then he just kind of stayed. So you might get a T-Bach on the lock someday, but not this one.
No, that would have to be another one.
So that is one early joke that never came back. But we did have fun talking about T-Bach on the lock that day.
Well, we've always had fun talking about T-Bach. And I think because he's so earnest, and he does always bring up the 1976 gold medal in fencing. And there's so many things about him that we can laugh about, but we never doubted his love or his devotion to his job as IOC president. So our making fun of T-Bach was always equally balanced with an admiration for how incredibly hard he worked at it. And we can only hope in our first change of IOC president since we've been doing the show that we get the same.
We will do a little IOC news next, because there are elements of T-Bach that we did read about in the news where there was a lot of control that he liked, and he liked to force things through. And we already immediately see some change going on. But I would like to say hello to listener Meredith, who joined us. Hello. You are
also pretty OG. Speaking of OG.
Oh, I apologize for the dogs.
That's
right
okay.
off the bat.
That's all right. We love dogs.
Okay, so whenever a guest has a dog make an appearance during the interview, the running joke is, I'm like, no, bring the dog.
Right? And Meredith, I guess I would blame you because you were one of the people who got us into the Paralympics, who kept poking us and going, how about some Paralympic coverage? Between you and Superfan Sarah, both of you were like, hey, how about I know a Paralympian you can talk to. And that pushed the stone down the hill. And boy, do we enjoy covering the Paralympics now. So thank you for introducing us to that world.
I will happily take credit for that.
That has been such an unexpected joy.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Paralympics. I'm trying to remember when I got into them. Oh my gosh, girls. Honestly, I think they really just sprang into my awareness in Atlanta. And I just had so much fun watching the Olympics in Atlanta. And then I was like, and the Paralympic coverage was minimal, but the Cincinnati Enquirer was wonderful. They still printed all the results, even though most of the country wasn't paying very much attention.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it wasn't like front page or anything. You know, like during the Olympics, there was like front page stories about the Olympics every day in 1996 because, it's America. But yeah, it was, like back in the sports section, they just printed like line by line results.
I cannot imagine my life now without wheelchair hockey. I mean, wheelchair rugby and para hockey.
Wheelchair hockey.
That would be interesting. No, I don't know if did I share it with you guys from the sled hockey in Buffalo?
No, Mark, you went to sled hockey in Buffalo, and we have not heard anything about this. So please tell us.
Yeah, I may not have posted in there, but I did go. It was very interesting to see. I mean, it plays out, similar enough to a, standard ice hockey game, and the U.S. team was just too good, so they were full value for that win. But that was interesting to see. It was in the Buffalo Sabres practice facility, like the little maybe 1,000-seat or 1,500-seat arena, but they have right next to the Sabres arena downtown there. And we just as an aside, the next day, my dad and I went to the minor league baseball game there, but it was about 12 degrees and maybe like low 50s, the way you would say it. We left after 3 innings. We're not used to outdoor baseball in bad weather in Toronto anymore.
Was it very crowded? Because you were at
because actually there was one side with all the Canadian people, like a lot of them were probably friends and family in that, and we had noisemakers, and the other side was with the Americans. But if it was not quite full, it was at least mostly full for that one. Yeah.
And did you get to see Jack Wallace and the amazing puck handling underneath his sled?
Yeah, I'm just impressed with how they all do that. That's a different kind of skill set they have. Very, very impressive.
It's so much fun. And the hard part we were talking before about Milan is para hockey is the only thing that's in Milan during the Paralympics. Everything else is in Cortina. So I don't know how this is going to work.
So we have at least 2 more people have joined us. John Foyne, is this you?
Hi.
Hello.
So nice to see you again.
We have another Shook Listani, our American football player from the World Games.
Good to talk to you. It's been about, I guess, it's like 2 years maybe. So it's been a minute.
And you've been busy.
A little bit, yeah. A little staying busy.
We got the World Games coming up again.
We do. I'm working with the fistball team. I'm not going, but I'm just like working with the organizing of it, and there's the women's team qualified, so I've been like in cahoots with them.
Nice. And what do you think of flag football for LA?
I think I have a lot of thoughts about flag football for LA. I think it's great, and I think other people might agree with me. I think that the team sports all got a little short-ended with only 6 countries qualifying, and that's across the board. That's flag, that's cricket, that's baseball, softball. Like, that's such a small number, and I get it. Like, you have a 2.5-week window to do this tournament, but 6 teams is so limited. I wish it would be expanded to 8. There's going to be 8 teams at the World Games, and there's only women's flag at the World Games this summer, no men's flag. But I think it's good. I mean, flag is the future. Flag checks all those IOC boxes: gender equity, easy to access, keeping, small roster size. Like that was the biggest problem with American football at the World Games in 2017 was just the 45-man roster and just getting all those guys over, and just the numbers were inflated. So it flag checks a lot of boxes, and as someone who's played both American and flag, it's a different sport. So I'm really tired of hearing the NFL versus the flag player thing. I think if you can't debate that the NFL players are elite athletes, but they're not the best flag players. So that's going to be interesting. Now you give those guys 6 months of training, they would end up beating the national flag team, but they're not just going to walk on the field and be great. So that's a loaded question, but that's my preliminary answer.
You know we're going to ask you a loaded question,
I
John.
know,
You show up with us. We're not just going to say hello.
I know.
But yeah, there has been a lot of controversy with the NFL players. And, we talk to athletes about even just changing from running 200 meters to 400 meters. It's like a different sport. This is a big difference when you're talking elite level competition.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, not just the rules being different, but the movements, the strategy, like it's a different sport. Again, I do think that the 10-person roster limit is really gonna, because in the World Games it was 12 in Birmingham and it's 12 again in Chengdu for the women. But I think the 10-person roster limit, I know we're trying to cut costs and drive that number quoted down to around 11,000 total across the board. But that's such a small number. And I think you're really going to struggle. I think with the NFL's backing, they're going to want a few of their guys on that roster at least. So it's going to take away from some guys that are really deserving to be on that 10-person team. So that is just going to be something to be interesting, because you will see an NFL guy or two, even if the flag players end up being the majority of the roster.
And it'll be interesting to see what other countries do, because there are other nationalities in the NFL, just like in the NHL. And do you, just for visuals, just for optics, do you pull that NFL player onto your roster so that it gets that excitement?
Yeah, I mean, so right now the NFL has what's called the International Player Pathway, and that means every NFL team gets to have a player that is not from their country on their practice squad. So the practice squad goes from 15 to 16, so every player gets that one bonus player. And I think you'll see a lot of those. It depends who qualifies. I mean, I don't know what the qualifying is going to look like, but with 6 teams, it's going to be very, very interesting. So, but I think you'll see one of those pathway players on there. And some of those countries, I mean, like Mexico beat the women's team at the World Games in 2022. Canada just beat the men at some exhibition in Southern California. So it's not going to be like we're just going to walk out there and win because it's football on home soil. It's going to be competitive. I mean, so Mexico's good, Canada's good, Germany's okay. Israel's going to use if they qualify, use a lot of Americans who have that dual citizenship.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 3x3 versus 5-on-5 basketball. You see very different countries being at the top of that.
Yeah, it was like the Israeli baseball team in Tokyo.
Hello.
Excellent.
Introduce yourself, please.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm from Chicago. Been listening for about 2 years now.
We have heard from you.
Yeah. And I'd say my sport background is I have a black belt in judo, and I've been involved in that for 15 years. And in particular, I love a lot of sports, but I find it very difficult to follow ball sports because I am legally blind. So it's very hard for me to follow sports like that. But very much like judo, gymnastics, the sliding sports, and snowboards are like my favorites.
Excellent. What did you think of this news that happened recently with a parajudoka from, I believe, Azerbaijan or Uzbekistan, who was caught having good vision?
Ooh, I guess
that's news to you, but
it is news to me. And I think the unfortunate thing about testing for vision is that it is very much like self-reporting in a lot of ways. But I think there's a lot of flaws with the process in general, just in like the short turnaround times they want exams from medical professionals that are often hard to get an appointment with. And I know when I used to compete in judo, when I would get tested for my vision, they like for me, like in my condition, lighting plays a huge factor in what I can see. And so if you're testing with terrible lighting, then it's going to look like I can see way less than I actually can. So I feel like that system has needed an overhaul for many years now. And I guess if someone studies people with visual impairments for a long enough time, they could get away with it. But that's really unfortunate that that happened.
Yeah, the more we've gotten into the Paralympics, the more, unfortunately, the more what we've seen of this sort of thing. And we've heard the term class doping, where people fake how severe their disabilities are to get in a more disabled class so that their abilities are different than the other people within the class.
Or on the flip side, you have somebody like Nick Mayhew who was reclassified because he was too good for the class he was in. Sarah, I will tell you a little preview. We have talked with some sled hockey officials, and we just, hopefully it will make the show now because I'm going to say it. We talked about blind ice hockey. And
oh,
how
really?
that is, yeah, it's an interesting thing. And we got to, you'll hear the how the puck sounds, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know a few
versus in the
friends
game.
who play it. I know it's gaining a lot of popularity. I haven't tried it yet, but I very much want to.
You will have to let us know if you do.
Yeah.
Should we talk, Alison, about what Kirsty Coventry's doing with the IOC?
Let's chat about President Kirsty.
All right, we have a little bit of news from the IOC as well. New President Kirsty Coventry is getting right to work. She immediately announced 2 working groups, one that will look at and quote unquote strengthen the future host election process. Membership said at what they call a pause and reflect discussion that they wanted to be more involved in the process of electing host cities, and they want to figure out when to award the next host city. They looked at LA and Brisbane. They were awarded 11 years out of the games, and 2030 was awarded just 6 years out. And before this, 7 years was the standard for a host city election. The other working group is going to be about protecting the female category. We're going to get to that. But Rich, Roy, you've got to have thoughts on the host city selection process. Go ahead, Rich.
Well, Lord Acton was correct. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you look at the IOC's history and you remember the Salt Lake scandal, which was personal for me only in the sense that I knew the players, right? So I had met Walsh, I knew Johnson, Dave Johnson, and I thought it was unfortunate, but they were playing the game that they felt had been played against them regarding the Nagano Games in 1998. So if you go back to the idea that the members are going to vote in a contested election for the host city, you open the door to bribery again. Now, they went in 1999, they had this scandal. Mark Hodler, the FIS chief, brought it up, and it was a real shock to the IOC. It had been whispered about, but no one knew exactly what happened. And it was fortunate for the Olympic movement that it was something that happened in the U.S. because you had the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI that got involved. So you got a lot of the details. You wouldn't have gotten that in another country, I think. So they got rid of some of these members. They made all these changes, some of which are still in today. And 10 years later, for Rio, it's absolutely clear that the Brazilians were vying votes in the first round. Absolutely clear. No question about it. So these reforms lasted all of 10 years. Great. That's real long-term reform, 10 years. So I think the nature of the IOC membership is different. I had a friend who called me, he said, you know, what about this bribery? Because he had the same idea. And I said, well, it's going to be a lot harder to bribe Princess Rima because her price is going to be pretty high as a Saudi royal family member. It's going to take a lot of money to buy her vote, maybe some oil wells. But you're not going to do much with Rima, and you're not going to do much with some of these other folks, the former Croatian president, you're not going to do much with. So they have a better membership, I think. They don't have scoundrels. At least they have fewer scoundrels than they had. We don't have Diak involved, who very capably took over for Nebbiolo, who I knew. And Nebbiolo was a if you ever wanted to meet someone who would have been in the U.S. mafiosi, it was Nebbiolo. He was completely crooked, but if he made a deal with you, he stuck to it. So he's not. That makes him an honest crook, right? So Nebbiolo succeeded by Diak. Diak was and his son were doing business, and what Bach did is he got rid of the voting. Therefore, he got rid of the corruption. And you can say, well, Los Angeles didn't turn out well. I would suggest to you that had nothing to do with 11 years ahead of time. It had a lot to do with who was responsible for working from 11 years to 3 years, which is today. And Brisbane, the thing descended into a change of administrations. So we don't know how it's going to turn out in Brisbane. Hopefully it'll turn out well. They certainly have somebody in Liveris who should be very capable as a chief executive. The guy knows what he's doing. At least his history shows that. So I think every candidate for the IOC presidency promised that they were going to get the members more involved. I think Coventry is pretty smart. I don't know a lot about the politics of Zimbabwe, but I did some reading, and they are rough and tumble and nasty and racial and all the things that a country you would expect of any kind, of any size, it's not an absolute dictatorship like North Korea, would go through. So she's not somebody who hasn't been through this. So I'll be interested to see kind of what comes up. But I think you're going to end up seeing some sort of a blended approach, maybe where the Future Host Commission comes up with 2 or 3 names, and they only announce the results at a session and you vote the next day, something like that, where you take the bribery opportunities down to a minimum. But it has to be something like that because they're just opening the door to corruption. And she knows that. I've not met her. I've only done press conferences with her, but it's very clear she's a serious person. And she will understand this.
And I do wonder about the host selection process of how quickly Brisbane got through and how much did that have to do something with John Coates being involved and the membership realizing, oh, we're kind of just a rubber stamp on the process. And it feels like the pendulum has swung too much in the other direction of taking a process that was pretty broken, because I think people like the idea of a pageant, but it costs millions of dollars for every city. And it turns into a big kind of debacle and opens itself up to bribery. But then you get into a situation where all the time you have these questions of, well, who's going to be the next host city? We need another host city chosen now. So people are already talking about 2036, 2040, and it's way too soon to elect these host cities, but there are some people who can't let that go. So they just keep pushing that button. And yes, behind the scenes, you have to start talking about that and thinking about it and planning, but we don't need to bring that to the forefront now.
You know whose vote will never get bought? Princess Anne.
Well, there's another one who's got a pretty stiff bank account. So I don't, she and Rima can compare financial statements between countries, right? They have better people, but I mean the corruption thing is real. The other thing, which I think it is a detail, but is going to get changed, is the way that they do the announcement. Because I think this was crystallized better. I think that is something that you might see in the IOC business, because there's an easy way to do it. You put the bid cities, whoever they are, in rooms, satellite rooms, and you announce the winner, and then you bring in the winning delegation. And then there can be a reception afterward and everybody can come. But, it's a terrible thing. And I've been in rooms where where LA has lost, where I've been part of the bid committee. And it's a terrible feeling. I mean, it's great that someone is celebrating. Good for them. But, you know what you did, and you know where you think you stood, and you didn't get the result that you thought was appropriate, whether it was winning or being advanced to a next round. I've been in a room as a bid writer and being told, well, your bid wasn't very good. And I'm going, well, let's see. I got a call this morning from somebody who was on the staff who told me we had the highest score, highest technical score. So you're lying to me, aren't you? Oh, so that has to be eliminated. You have to find a way not to humiliate bidders. And you have to, Jill's exactly right, you have to find a way to maintain this very, very, very low cost of bidding. However, I would point out to Jill and to Alison, as well as for my own good, that the old style of bidding was fabulous for podcasts like yours and websites like mine. Because bid committees would spend thousands of dollars for absolutely no return whatsoever. But it's what broke around the rings, and it had a significant impact in breaking inside the games because that bid money was insane. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars every 2 years, right?
Wow.
So, in some ways, I wanted to come back so I can make some more money. But in a lot of ways, especially in terms of trying to keep the Olympic movement healthy, and Bach has left it tremendously healthy in many ways. There's things that I don't like that he did, okay. But I graded him the number 3 IOC president in history, behind de Coubertin and Samra. And I don't think it's close. There's a huge gap when you go down to 4. But this is something that he brought in that I think is the right thing to do, that needs reform. It has to be tweaked. It's going to be tweaked. But you open to an open vote and you don't have some sort of a mechanism where it's, rapid turnaround, so there's no way to get the checkbook out, right? I think the IOC is just inviting corruption. I hope they don't do it. Other than that, I have no opinion on this.
Does anybody else have an opinion on this?
I just have a thought.
Yes, Roy.
About, I mean, look, the Big Ten sports always has this issues with corruption. Don't know how that's going to be resolved. Hopefully we are in a better place. But what's interesting to me was I've been out of the game for quite a while, but coincidentally I was talking to a sports marketing friend of mine who works for a company is charged with helping the communications bid for India in 2036, which, I hadn't been keeping track of that, but Ahmedabad is one of several countries that are vying for 2036. And, it's been a while since we've had a Summer Games candidate or city that is having its coming out for the country. So Rio was, I guess, the last major one for Summer Games, picked in great economic times and then debuting in poor economic times. And this has always been the trap of these games. But, I look at India and Indonesia as 2 huge countries, right? I mean, just population alone, 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion for India. Indonesia is the 4th biggest population in the world, I think around 240, 250,000 people. Indonesia, a huge country, a petro economy, a democracy, an anomaly in the world. In an area, I've been living in Asia for 30 years plus, and watched it go from an emerging economy to a behemoth of a global economy. And China, India in particular are driving the global economy, or will be driving it over the next few decades. India will be interesting, as will China. I think we cannot predict the impact AI will have on global socioeconomic politics, but India and China, of course. India is a huge center for AI research and development. What we see of India now will be totally different in 10 years. It'll be interesting to see an India debut in 2036. I think it'll look totally different. I think the global economy will look totally different. It could potentially be a spectacular coming out party for India. So it'll be interesting to see how that bid plays out. Indonesia also a very interesting bid prospect as well. Maybe not on the scale as India, but I look at those 2 prospects as very interesting. If we still view the Olympics as this incredible global marketing platform for a nation.
That will be interesting. Tommy, I see you. We'll get to you in a second. But I'm heartened by the fact that India wants to bid, although I've read, and I can't give you a source, recently that they've been told, well, get your house in order first, was the basic message I got. With you have a lot of problems with governance within sports, but there's also the fact that you haven't done very well on the Olympic stage. So why should you host the Olympics?
1.4 billion.
Yeah,
eyeballs.
well, that true. Yeah, the eyeballs. But how is that going to play if they can't if they're having problems with governance, how are they going to be able to run a bid? Or just if you have 1.4 billion eyeballs, will they tune in to see India fail, or will there be enough athletes to draw them in? Because they'll watch if cricket's in, because cricket will be in.
Well, cricket, I think, is going to be an interesting test case for that. In LA, will India's television viewership of the Olympics shoot up because people are tuning into cricket? And then if you tune into cricket, you stay for other things. And when you're talking about the governance, remember when we read Abhinav Bindra's book, how he talked about how poor the governance was just for shooting and how much trouble he ran into. So it's not a new problem that India's dealing with.
But does India have 1.4 billion eyeballs? Like, how many people in India own televisions or have the means to watch and enjoy
Even if it's
the
half
games?
that, it's still twice the American population.
Well, that's true, but I mean, I don't know how quickly
10 years from now, India will be.
Yeah, that was my question. Like, if they're growing very quickly, I did some research on India a few years back for a work thing that I did, and that was always one of the questions, was because they wanted the Indian government wanted people to adopt electronic payments, move away from cash. And the hard part about that was helping people understand how things like that work. And so the growth of the middle class, I think, will be an important factor in how many eyeballs they have. I'm not denying it at all. It's just that I think will be a bid question that will come up.
Well, maybe not.
But I think even if it's not television in particular, I think the mobile viewing ship is something to factor in these days, and that could be the tipping scale.
It's a good thought. Yeah.
I mean, who are the competitors?
I'm stuck in the past thinking about television.
I mean, when I look at the Wikipedia page, it says Santiago, Chile, Istanbul, Turkey are the two interested confirmed bids in addition to Indonesia and India. So it's not as if everyone's raising their hands for 36.
Roy, that's not exactly true, because you have at least a half a dozen others who are talking to the IOC sub rosa, and they don't want to be known that they're involved. They don't want, and this is the advantage of this continuous dialogue business. There's at least 10 who are seriously interested. The best place to find this is gamesbids.com. If you read that site, you'll see Robert's work, and it's excellent. He's got stories that talk about how many are in there. But he has an excellent story. He was reporting on the Times of India story, which went a little deeper than what Jill just said, is that the IOC apparently in closed doors told them, the Times of India had the story, that they have very significant governance problems. They can't hire a CEO of the Indian Olympic Association. They can't do it, not because someone doesn't want the job, because no one will approve it. The board is fighting with each other. They have terrible doping problems. They're number 2 only to Kenya in athletics. 129 people, India, on the athletics list of ineligible people. The U.S., by contrast, has 14, right? And then some of us, this is back when I had hair, some of us went through the crucible of trying to get involved in the 2010 Commonwealth Games. And I was bidding to provide services with my event management company, and I'm glad we lost, because half the contractors didn't get paid. So I'm glad I didn't get that gig. But that Commonwealth Games was terrible. All kinds of corruption, all kinds of problems. And Bach has said, well, that's okay. Alison is right. Bach is looking at cricket and is looking at the television rights. And he said, well, that was a long time in the past. It's not so far in the past. So India has a long way to go. Long, long, long way to go. And Jill, to your point about 2028 being 11 years and 2032 being 11 years, I would give you a 2-word answer: safe hands.
Well, yeah. And I think the fact that they were both 11 years is different, because LA's awarding came because we were down to 2 cities and Bach said, let's not have any losers. Brisbane came about because of this future host commission.
Well, Los Angeles, Garcetti, the mayor at the time, Garcetti also told Bach, if you don't give us the 28 games, we're not bidding again.
Can't have that. There's not that many cities who can do the games this big anymore.
And I think a lot of, to your point, Rich, that a lot of people or a lot of cities are talking under the radar. We kind of saw the opposite of that happen with 2030, how all these cities came up. It was such a public thing. Sapporo was in and then it was out. Calgary was in and then it was out. And that was not great for optics for the IOC, that these cities are in and out and in and out. So I would see the benefit to kind of these discussions quietly happening when it's so far ahead of time. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, I would like to say hello to listener Tommy, who's been here for a while. Hello, how are you, Tommy?
Good.
When did you join us, Tommy? How long ago?
As a listener, probably right around Tokyo 2021. Yeah.
I knew it had been a while. I knew you've stuck around. I've been very active on the Facebook group, so we're always happy to get a chance to say hello.
Yeah, I kind of obsess over the medal count and stuff. And on my Facebook page, I kept a running tab on every day of Paris, trying to see who's going to win the medal count. And yeah, U.S. kind of sort of came out on top at the end.
Okay, so when you count medals, do you count totals or do you count golds?
Golds, because that's like the classic way that I always saw people do it. And yeah, I go by gold medals and then silver and then bronze.
And I do want to say credit to you. Your pre-Paris prediction for the host nation, if I remember correctly, was right on target.
Yeah, I got lucky on that. Yeah, so I have a book that I wrote on the 1980 Olympics, which is coming out within a month or so. So I look forward to sharing that with everyone.
And speaking of books, Book Club Claire is here.
Hello.
Hello. Lovely to see you.
Representing.
With your fabulous t-shirt.
Yes, I am. Wearing with pride. I almost forgot. I was doing book stuff and all of a sudden I went, oh no, I forgot my computer was slow, and so I'm on my phone.
So when did you first become a listener?
It was during the Pyeongchang Games.
Pyeongchang, yeah.
So you and Patrick are kind of OGs, and Meredith as well. Meredith was here. She had to step aside, but yeah, you've been around a long time.
Well, I actually explained this to Ben. He asked me why I was listening to your podcast. And I said, well, during Pyeongchang, I was looking for podcasts about the Olympics. And I wanted to see if there were any podcasts by women about the Olympics, because so many of them are done by guys. And I'm like, okay, I listen to enough podcasts with guys. I want to hear some female perspective. And yours was the first one that popped up. And I'm like, oh, they've only been doing this for like a few months. And then I just kind of kept doing it. And when you said, hey, we're looking for contributors, I said, I could help. And they said, hey, do our book club. And I said, okay. And that's how it started.
Okay, so how I remember that was somebody, may have been you, suggested, why don't you read some books? And I said, how about you lead that? that in my brain is how that conversation went.
That's more accurate than what I
I have no memory, Claire, before the croque monsieur we shared in Paris.
Oh, that was a delicious croque monsieur.
That was a good day because we had never met before in person.
That's correct.
Which was so funny to me. And that's what's, I think Jill and I both have had this experience. And Sean and I have never met in person. And Rich and I we've met in New York. But all these people I haven't met in person who are friends. And then when we were finally together, it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, the artwork of that street where we've gone the croque monsieur.
Yes.
Right there. So
very nice.
I bought that the same, like within an hour of us meeting for the first time to commemorate our meeting. And it made it to my travel wall, which is what's behind me right now.
Outstanding.
I would like to go around the horn and ask everybody, let's say it's possible to host the Olympics, no matter how big your city is. What city, they can host it no matter what. What city would you want to see a Summer Games and a Winter Games in? I'm going to start at my bottom left and go Ian first.
So I can pick any city?
Any city. Doesn't matter if they are capable of hosting the games, but they would be in our magical world.
Some cities, I just don't know where you'd put it. But I mean, I always joke that you would have we don't have an all-seater stadium of the appropriate size, but I would love to see a nice ceremony at Ohio Stadium here in Columbus, let's be honest.
Oh, yes. The Ohio State University Stadium is pretty legendary in terms of stadiums.
So I'll just be a homer and pick my own city, because I think that would be fun.
What about Winter Games?
For winter, I'm pretty sure they'll never do it, but I would like some place in New Zealand. I think that would be the best opportunity, but I believe it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure they'll never do it for environmental reasons.
That's
but
okay.
Yeah.
Sean Callahan.
I'm going to go Boston. I know there was a hot second where the city close to me was putting a bid for 2024 for the Summer Games, decided not to put that bid in. And I think it could actually work for both the Summer and the Winter Games. I think New Hampshire is close enough, especially, thinking about it's going to be 5 hours to get to Cortina? That you can be up to
Vermont,
Vermont, or even northern New Hampshire, and you can be up there in 2.5 hours. So I think Boston would be, the visuals for the television would be great. I think it has the venues for keeping the building costs to a minimum for either the summer or the winter games. So I think it'd be fun to see something in the Northeast.
I like the idea of Boston as a winter host. When you put it like that, and we see how spread out Milan Cortina is. But I when I lived in Boston, it was going up for 2024. And it was like, the traffic and the not so great subway system. But I do think a Winter Games is a nice idea.
They did a bang-up job.
Salt Lake City has the Olympics, and we have a better subway system than they do. They have great public transit that they've built up, but everyone talks about the public transit. It's like, well, you look at some other venues, like Pyeongchang had zero public transit. It was all just Olympic shuttle buses. So,
Roy Tomizawa, what would you say for a summer host?
I'm from New York City, so when I read about the plans for transferring New York City in the 2012 Olympic bid, of which actually quite a lot happened with Bloomberg and Dr. O's plans, it would have accelerated a lot of the development in Queens and in Brooklyn and of course Manhattan. Of course, it would have been. I think the New Yorkers would have hated it. Would have just totally screwed up their lives. But it would have been interesting to have it there. But, I have a soft heart for Detroit, which lost 9 Summer Games bids. And, we look at Detroit now and, it's not the place that you would think would bid. But in its heydays in the 50s and 60s, Detroit was probably one of the greatest cities in the world. And they lost it every single time from the 40s into the 70s. And I think Detroit would have been a spectacular place. It would have represented New York, America's economic and cultural power, right? With Motown and with the auto industry. So it would have been interesting. But, Rome and Tokyo and Mexico City got it instead. And those were great games as well. But I just feel bad for Detroit. I hope one day it does get it. But of course, Detroit is no longer the economic and cultural epicenter it once was. So just a remorseful thought.
Do you have an idea for Winter Games?
No, I have no idea. I hate snow.
Okay.
The only Olympic Games I've been to is Pyeongchang, of course. It was freezing.
Rich Perlman, what are your choices?
And my Summer Games idea would be a Olympic Games in Jerusalem, hopefully with a peace in the region. The European Junior Track and Field Championships were held in Jerusalem a couple of years ago, and the comments from the athletes, none of whom were Jewish, about how they were completely overwhelmed by being in Jerusalem and being around the history and so on. Some of whom were deeply religious in their own faiths, that Jerusalem was an important place for them. But I think Jerusalem, which does actually have facilities, along with Tel Aviv and Haifa, would be amazing. It's not the right time now, but maybe in the future it could be. In terms of Winter Games, only the Finns could do this, maybe with the Swedes, but to have a Winter Games above the Arctic Circle, which is already partially done with the slalom that is done every year, the reindeer slalom in Ruka. So FIS actually does go every year in Alpine above the Arctic Circle. And they have the business where if you win, you get to name a reindeer. But I think having a Winter Games actually above the Arctic Circle, that would be the epitome of a Winter Olympic Games.
Patrick from Chicagoland.
So, given some time to think about it, I have an answer. I have a U.S. answer for both and a world answer, a non-U.S. for both.
Lay it
So,
on us.
all right, U.S. answer for summer. I'm biased. I'm originally from L.A., but I live in Chicago, just because it'll be easier for me. Chicago. It would have been fascinating if they won it in 2016. How that would have gone. And they're building more. Like I know they're building a new soccer stadium, which probably would have been, which could be used, for an Olympic facility as well. So Chicago, and American winter, even though they don't have mountains, or I think they do, but I'm not sure. The Twin Cities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Twin Cities.
And then you could just, I mean, if we're doing regional games, they can just go to the Rockies.
Might as well. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, Tahiti's surfing.
Right.
And then World. Oh, I completely blanked out now. Okay, I remember World for Winter, though. World for Winter, definitely Sweden, just because they kept losing and losing and losing.
Listener Sarah from Chicago. What say you?
Gosh darn it. I also had the idea of the Twin Cities, but I don't want to give it to them because I feel like they'd be insufferable afterward. And I was also tempted to give it to Chicago because of our failed bid. But for the Winter Games, I'm going to go with Denver just because it's a wintry city I can think of that isn't the Twin Cities. And then for the Summer Games, I want to see it go to Guadalajara in Mexico because it's the second biggest city in the country. And now that they're more united under their current president, I'd like to see Mexico redeem themselves after the 68 games.
That is an interesting concept. I like these ideas that are coming out. I also Jerusalem would be pretty powerful. I will say that, Rich. That would be a games that would just overwhelm everybody, and there's not enough puffs in the world. I'd just be having a box around my neck with my credential.
You know what would be amazing with the Jerusalem Games if I'm going to go pie in the sky with Rich, if they did a joint bid with a city in one of the countries surrounding them. If it was an Israel-Jordan bid, Israel, Egypt, something in that mold.
Well, that would be their concept. I mean, they have an organization already that puts on the Maccabia.
Yeah.
Which has been going since 1932 and has about 8,000 athletes. So they already understand how to do this, and they do it on a tiny budget. They understand exactly how to do it, and they would do a remarkable job. But the idea would be to try and do something regionally that would show off peace between Israel and its neighbors. And that's not happening right now. But in the future, who knows?
Interesting. I would also, I think Denver is an interesting choice as well, because A, it's a pretty big city, but B, I would love to see what they would do given that they returned the games and if attitudes were different in this day and age versus in the 70s. Moving on to listener David, what do you say?
All right, well, I'm a lifelong New Yorker, so Roy kind of took my thunder a little bit there. I remember watching the vote and the presentation back in 2005. I kept thinking to myself, this could work, this might work, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. But in Roy's honor, I'm going to go with my college town. I'm going to say Philadelphia, because they have the world a very wonderful and historic track and field stadium. They've got a sports complex that has plenty of room and stuff to put there. So I know that there were a couple of rumblings around maybe for like 2016 that they were trying to throw their hat in the ring, but you're close to New York, you're close to Washington. It would have been right in that northeast corridor, so that would have been cool to see. And then for the winter side, I was rooting for Stockholm to get it for 2026. I know nothing in the world is ever going to top Lillehammer. It would be nice to get back to Scandinavia. I would love to travel to Sweden. I might have gone for that Olympics. I've been to Italy before, but hopefully at some point in the not too distant future we find a Winter Olympics back in Scandinavia, because that seemed like it would be a fun time.
And that Philadelphia mascot has got to be a bell.
Producer Ben, what say you?
So for the Summer Games, I would go Chicago because I I saw some of the plans and things. We were living in Chicago at the time. We were standing in the plaza when it got knocked out on the first vote, and there was palpable disappointment. But I was part of a local citizens council at the time, and the bid committee came in and talked about the bid. And there was just this sense, and I do attribute a lot of this to Mayor Daley, that they were going to do right by the city. There were big plans for the public transportation and big plans for some of the housing and things like that. And so I think that Chicago would have been one of those cities where if it had come together, it would have benefited the city for a long time. The other place that I think had, well, I don't know anymore, but that would have had potential for a Summer Games might have been Hong Kong. Back when it was an international, more of an international city. I was there once. It's obviously a very tight location, but I think it'd be easy to get to venues and get around. It was such a neat city because I was there in 2001, right after the handover, basically. And it was just such a melting pot city that I think it would have been really interesting. For winter, I don't know. I do like the Twin Cities idea. I also like being above the Arctic Circle, but we could make it truly international and put it in Antarctica, and just have it on neutral territory altogether. But those are kind of my thoughts off the top of my head. I don't hate the idea of Boston, though, having been up in New Hampshire, like you say, and the White Mountains and all of that. I think there's a lot of potential. Or maybe even if space is no object, Northern Michigan, where they've done some training for that kind of thing as well.
And sliding could be in Lake Placid, like they keep wanting to put it in.
Book Club Claire, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say Detroit as well, due to the many, many bids that it had early on. But I'm going to say for the Summer Olympics, somewhere in Africa, because we got to hit up that continent sometime. I'm not really sure if we go to South Africa, Johannesburg or something like that, but I think that would be a good place to host the games. For the winter, I'm going to definitely give it to Denver because they keep saying no, and we're just going to force it on them and say, tough. You have everything we need. Just host it already.
I'm curious to see how the Youth Olympic Games goes in Senegal. Listener Tommy, what do you say?
Yeah. So they tried to do it in 1988, and they came up just short. And I go with Nagoya, Japan. I've been to Nagoya. That is an amazing city. It has the transportation there is just out of this world. It's amazingly efficient. They would do a really good job at getting people to different venues. Maybe they'd have to build some stuff, but yeah, Nagoya would be an amazing place for the Olympics. Winter Olympics, I just think Sweden. So not very creative with that pick, but Sweden would be my pick.
Excellent. Listener Ian, I will go back to you because you were first up. It's hard.
I'll stick with my New Zealand for winter. Absolutely.
Okay.
But if I had to pick a non-home city, I think I actually really like the Boston both idea. I've been to Boston a few times. It's one of my favorite cities here in the U.S. So I would probably go to Boston at that point.
All right. Well, IOC, if you were listening.
Jill, you didn't tell us your choices.
Oh, my choice. Oh, well, I haven't thought about this question, to be honest. How about you? You go first. I have to think.
Well, we all know I'm going to say Stockholm for winter because we all know I'm obsessed with the Stockholm bid. Summer, I've got two shots. One, I want Canada to have another shot at the summer because Montreal was such a disaster financially for them. And it's such a great sports country. So possibly Toronto, possibly, I don't know if Ottawa could handle it, but we're doing pie in the sky. So definitely. And if we want to do an African bid, I had such an amazing time in Morocco with the Moroccan people. So I'd love to see a joint North African bid, possibly a Morocco, Egypt, something in that neck of the woods, because it was such an amazing country. And they do love their sports, and they do just love, surprisingly, hosting foreigners. And, oh man, if I could get some more tagine, I would not argue with that.
You could get that without the Olympics.
Yes. But the joy of it is that then I can always charge it back to the podcast.
All right. I have a Winter Olympics idea. That pie in the sky, we can do whatever we want. I say we take over Liechtenstein.
Oh, you know I love Liechtenstein.
And, we've got an IOC member who is from Liechtenstein, one of the royal family.
Yes.
You just take it over, and then you can farm out, you can go over the borders for your different events. I think that would work.
Nice. I do like that.
I was so sad when Chicago lost the bid. And that would be a great city to host. Ben and I have talked about this a lot, where we don't think they could host now because of the leadership. The leadership of Mayor Daley was special, and not sure that can be replicated at the moment. Kind of want to see Egypt. I'd love to go to Cairo. I'd like to see it would be the idea of that backdrop would be so beautiful for television. And they've done squash in front of the pyramids, so we know that people like that bid, and they're also good at modern pentathlon. But summer, yeah, I'm not sure. It would be nice if Africa could host. It also might be nice if you could put it in Chile. I think Santiago might be an interesting choice. But
well, who would not be happy about going back to Chicago?
Who?
Jacques Roguet.
I don't know, for those of you who don't know. So Alison and I used to work at a consulting firm, and they were one of many people who were very interested in the Chicago bid. And Jacques Rogue and a host of classic Olympic legends, including Nadia and Edwin Moses, came to the Union League Club of Chicago, which is one of those big business titan organizations where we have lunches and we listen to speakers and we hobnob. So Jacques Rowe was coming, and I said, Ben, we got to go. And my company was getting a table or getting a lot of seats, and we kind of glommed on. And we went, and we were running late. And I will tell you that I did not have a lot of money and also did not have very nice clothes. And the only thing in my closet that morning that was clean and ironed was a pair of navy blue Liz Claiborne pants that I got at Marshall's. And so I know poor Alison is just shaking her head. And I probably had a shirt that I may have had to iron, but probably not if I knew me. So we're going, and Ben and I decided to go kind of on the later side of the social hour because we weren't going to know anybody, and I'm not good in that kind of situation. We get there, and we're checking in, and somebody looks at me and goes, you need to go to the VIP room. You're supposed to be in the VIP room. And I did not understand why my name got on the VIP list, but I suddenly am in the VIP room drinking a glass of wine and shaking Jacques Rogue's hand and not knowing what to say, and also be like, I don't know why I'm here. And then I had to sit at the VIP table next to one of the more influential priests of the city and another very nice woman. And I got through lunch somehow, and I knew not to eat dessert because none of the other ladies at my table ate dessert. And Alison, you know what I'm talking about. So we go, and Jacques Rowe is going to talk, and Mayor Daley's going to introduce him, and he repeatedly calls him Jacques Roguet. And if you listen to a man with a Chicago accent say Jacques Roguet over and over again, and I'm cringing on the inside, and I'm like, I'm not sure we're going to get this bid, people. We got a mayor that can't even say the president of the IOC's name correctly.
And that is why Chicago got knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, that and a host of other things. But yes, Jacques Roguet. It was a very good lunch. I will say that. I don't even know where you sat, Ben. Were you in the back? I was right dead center. It was amazing. I want that VIP status again.
Yeah, I don't know where I was in some random seat somewhere.
But too bad I wasn't smart enough to parlay that into something else. That would have been very smart of me. But I went back to my. It
was before we were doing the show. You did not know.
I know.
The road Jacques Roguet would lead you to.
I know, exactly.
And 400 episodes later,
right?
Here we are.
Here we are. And we're here with all of you. And so thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you for years and years for some of you. Even if you haven't listened very long, We just so appreciate the community that you all have built. Rich, Roy, the other people who were, Sean, we appreciate you being guests and taking a chance on talking with us. We're always amazed when people say yes, but you have made the show what it is, and it's being able to talk to smart people like you and smart listeners who have made this such a ride, and we hope it can keep going for years and years to come. We hope we can figure out who's going to get 2036 in person.
As we go along with our canes.
Hey, I'll take it. I will take it. So, well then
that's it, Jill. We're going to do another 400.
That's right.
Hey, all the cool people got canes. Don't worry about it.
Right? We will be the accessibility aces at that point. So that is going to do it for this show. We're so thrilled to be able to celebrate it with all of you. If you weren't able to come along tonight and be part of this show, please let us know what your favorite moments from the past 400 episodes have been.
And we do love hearing from you. You can chat with us and other listeners on our Facebook group, Keep the Flame Alive Podcast. Email us at flamealivepod@gmail.com. And the voicemail and text line is always open at 208-352-6348. That's 208-FLAME-IT. And if you need more Olympics and Paralympics in your life, because 400 episodes is not enough for you, please sign up for our newsletter at flamealivepod.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Next week, we will be talking with Paralympian and Survivor star Noelle Lambert, and we'll talk all things running blades and what she's working on in training for LA 2028. So, on that note,
this is Lori Luskery from Oak Park, Illinois, saying thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep the flame alive.